Good morning, everybody. Chester ARP Church Devotional Podcast. Clint Davis, your host. Thanks so much for being with us. Mitch brings us in. We're in Genesis 26 this morning. Look forward to it.
Gives me grace for every trial. Feeds me with the living bread.
All right. Well, we come to the story today after Isaac is kicked out of the land of the Philistines because of some issues over wells and also because of his deception of Abimelech. And as he's kicked out of the land, the Lord appears to him in verse 23 of Genesis 26. We'll pick it up in verse 23 and we'll work down to verse 33. This is what the word of the Lord says. From there he went up to Beersheba. And the Lord appeared to him that night and said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your offspring because of my servant Abraham. So he built an altar there, called on the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. Isaac's servants also dug a well there. Now Abimelech came to him from Gerar with Ahuzah, his advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his army. Isaac said to them, Why have you come to me? You hated me and sent me away from you. And they replied, We have clearly seen how the Lord has been with you. We think there should be an oath between two parties, between us and you. Let us make a covenant with you. You will not harm us, just as we have not harmed you, but have done only what is good to you, sending you away in peace. You are now blessed by the Lord. So he prepared a banquet for them, and they ate and they drank. They got up early in the morning and swore an oath to each other. Isaac sent them on their way, and they left him in peace. On that same day, Isaac's servants came to tell him about the well they had dug, saying to him, We have found water. He called it Sheba. Therefore, the name of the city is still Beersheba today. This is a great little story that reminds us of the faithfulness of God and the willingness of God to bless the people that he has chosen for himself. There's an issue with reference to Isaac and the men of Philistia. After Isaac lies to them about his wife being his sister, and then they have an issue over different types of wells and the use of water. The Lord is blessing Isaac. Isaac's sowing seed, and he is getting a great harvest. He's becoming richer and richer, and he was very wealthy. He had flocks of sheep, and the Philistines were jealous. They were envious of him. They stopped up their wells so that he couldn't get any water from them, and so they sent him on his way. And he goes from there, and the Lord finds him and says, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to be with you just as I was with your father Abraham. Now, I think this is an important point as we continue reading this story. One, that God met Isaac along the way, along the journey. When it appeared that all provision was lost, it appeared that he wasn't going to be able to meet the needs of his family, of his flock. He wasn't going to be able to grow the grain that he needed. He wasn't going to be able to sow the seed and provide the harvest that he needed to support his household and all that he had. And so Isaac was in a tough spot. The Lord finds him and says, I have blessed you because of your father Abraham, and I will continue to bless you. So God is working to meet the needs of Isaac in a difficult circumstance. And so he meets Isaac where he is. God does the same for you and me. He meets us where we are. That's one of the things we see revealed to us throughout the testimony of the Bible. The historical books of the Bible are there to show us the character of God, to show us how God interacts with his people. It's not just to give us historical dates and times and tell us a story of how people came about. It's there to show us how God is actually working amidst his people. And so he says here, I'm going to care for you. And we know that is revealed throughout the testimony of the Bible. He also says something very interesting to Isaac when God meets with him. He says this, Don't be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you mightily and multiply your offspring because of my servant Abraham. I entered into a covenant with Abraham. My servant Abraham lived and believed in me and walked with me in faith. I have blessed him, and now I will bless you because of my faithfulness to the promise I made to him. God keeps his promises to the third, fourth, fifth generation. It's important for us to remember that, because one of the things I see happening in our world today is that we tend to say, we fail to pass the faith on from generation to generation. We tend to say, well, you know what, when you're a young person, you can go to church and you can make your own decisions, etc. But we need to understand that God honors the passing on to the faith, and he honors blessing children of the faithful parents. And so we need to understand that God is doing that. And maybe sometimes the children don't recognize that blessing. Maybe sometimes we don't see that God is blessing our children. But we need to understand that God does operate in the same way. He blesses the children of believing parents. And so he often does. And so we are thankful for this story. Then, as part of the Lord's blessing in the life of Isaac, Abimelech comes to him and wants to enter into a treaty, wants to enter into a covenant with Isaac. And this takes away the potential danger that Isaac was facing with reference to the Philistines. Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, says, you know what? We're going to enter into a covenant with you. We won't harm you, and you won't harm us. And so now God has given him peace. So we have God finding him and confirming the reality of the blessing and the continued blessing and the continued presence with Isaac that he had with Isaac. We have God meeting him where he is. We have God saying, on behalf of your father and the faith that's been passed down to you, I will continue to bless you and work with you. I'll keep my promises. And then he goes on down and he says, here is an active way in which I'm doing that. You're not going to be wiped off the face of the earth by the Philistines. Rather, you're going to enter into a covenant with them, and they're going to be the ones who approach you about it. And so we see God at work, and we can see God at work in our own lives that way. We can see God at work in our own history that way. And so let me just encourage you and challenge you. Look for God where you are. It may be what you consider to be an inopportune time, and there he is. He shows up. That blessing continues on past the faith of your own children. Be thankful if you've received the faith from generations prior to you, from your parents or grandparents, and seek to continue to pass that faith on and downward from child to child through generations, and then look to see how God is working in your life to provide peace and to bless you for who you are. You guys have a great day. God bless you. I'll see you Monday. Today's Friday.
You can